What is up? In today's training, we're going to be talking about how to build muscle without sacrificing your athleticism. So many athletes and people in general try to build muscle because they need to gain some weight or put on some size. Yet when they do so, they actually end up sacrificing their speed, movement quality, and overall athleticism, which has them performing worse in the long run. And I don't want that for you. So my name is Nick Lyden. I'm a certified strength and conditioning coach. I've helped hundreds of athletes just like you get the results that you want without doing all these weird, stupid things in the gym that are going to waste your time and have you stalling and not seeing any results. So let's get into it. So if you train like a bodybuilder, you're going to lose your athleticism. It's just simple facts. Okay. And when I'm talking about training like a bodybuilder, I'm talking about the typical type of splits that you see, like, oh, we're doing chest today, and then we're doing shoulders, we're doing our leg day. I honestly, my personal opinion is there should be no such thing as leg day, because you should honestly be hitting your lower body and your upper body almost throughout the entire week. So it's not just one dedicated day. You got to be hitting it all the time, because as athletes, your legs are the foundation for everything: speed, power, jumping ability, rotational power. Everything transfers from the legs, so you need to develop them and get them strong and up to speed. So most type of bodybuilding programs or training programs that only really focus on one aspect and one method of building muscle, and that's typically very high volume of work. It's like that pump work or training to failure. You just don't need to do it. I'm going to dive into that a little bit more, some research behind that. And the typical rep ranges you're going to see across the board are four or five sets, 8 to 12 reps typically. And then you'll see some people go all the way 15, 20, 30, which is just insane to me, because when you start going into those rep ranges, you're now working more muscular endurance from that sort of stimulus standpoint. And if we're trying to grow muscle, there are many ways to do it, which I'm going to show you that don't require that and can actually keep you strong, fast, and building muscle. So once you actually learn the mechanisms behind how muscle growth happens, you're not going to need to sacrifice your athleticism for muscle. You're going to be able to build it concurrently while doing your other type of training. So the two main drivers of muscle growth are mechanical tension and metabolic stress. Okay, mechanical tension, metabolic stress. Now, there is a third one, muscle damage or DOMS, right, which is delayed onset muscle soreness. So that's when your legs or arms or whatever it is, are sore the next few days. That happens from the muscle fibers basically like tearing and creating some damage there and then repairing. So, but that typically doesn't necessarily need to happen, because research is really inconclusive on whether that is a main driver. It's about 50-50. So the main two we're going to focus on today are mechanical tension and the metabolic stress. So what is mechanical tension, right? You got to understand what it is before we can apply the principles to make it happen. So in order to build muscle, we need to put our body under mechanical tension. Mechanical tension is just simply a force, like a weight, that acts on a muscle as it's trying to lengthen. So an example for like the bench press, right? So mechanical tension would be when the bar is coming down, my chest fibers are lengthening, but I have the force and the tension acting against it, okay? So my muscle fibers are lengthening as force is acting upon it, and that is going to provide us the mechanical tension that we need in order to effectively trigger that mechanism to help with growth. So I do want to say that this needs to be progressively loaded. So it's called progressive overload. So we need to challenge that mechanical tension over and over and over by either adding more weight, adding more volume, things of that nature to make that happen. So I guess I went right into it and I already explained that. But the other ways you can talk or adjust progressive overload, obviously I said the sets and the reps. There's tempos that you can do, which will add another variable to your training intensity. Then there's also increasing the frequency at which you are doing the movement. So say you're lifting twice a week, full body, and then you moved it to 3 days of full body. that would be a form of progressive overload. Now let's get into metabolic stress. So when a muscle is under stress, like high amounts of stress, metabolic stress, it just cannot produce as much force as compared to an arrested state, right? Imagine your first or second rep compared to like your 10th or 12th, right? You're going to be stronger, have more force that you can apply through the movement because there's no accumulation of the metabolites in your system that are going to hinder that performance. So when that happens, right, say you're in your 10th, 12th rep, what happens is that we get that metabolic stress and our body is like, oh shit, like we need to move this weight, we need to perform this movement. So it's going to recruit more muscle fibers in order to make that happen, right? So our body, it wants to be very efficient, right? It wants to be as lazy as possible when it comes to this type of stuff. So if say we're benching, right, and we're doing 225, and I don't know, say your max is like 315. Our body during that 225 isn't going to recruit as much muscle fibers. It's not going to recruit all of them. It's going to recruit as little as needed to perform the movement. Okay. So when that metabolic stress adds up, the signal to your body has to get stronger and stronger and stronger to send it down to the chest muscles to activate more of the muscle fibers in order to make that happen. So that is how metabolic stress can influence, because it's allowing you to recruit more of the muscle fibers during those later reps. This can also be achieved with heavier weights as well, just as a little side note. So basically what it's doing is increasing the motor unit recruitment, which is just the signal down to your muscles to recruit all of the muscles there, to help us really develop the full muscle belly that we are working. So this is like more common in like most of the bodybuilding type. It's all metabolic stress type training, where they're just pumping out reps, they're getting the burn, and they're really pushing it to that failure, that they're getting a lot of metabolic stress during that time. But like I said, this can also be achieved with heavier reps, or heavier reps, but less reps in your sets, which will also provide a strength stimulus. So it's a little 2-for-1, which is nice. But that metabolic stress, what it does is it releases a cascade of anabolic hormones such as testosterone, growth hormone, to really help aid the hypertrophy after we recover with that. It'll increase the serum testosterone levels and GH levels for anywhere from 24, 48 to 72, just depending upon hours, depending on your training that you have. So one thing that I want to highlight is this study, right? So with these two groups, one group went to failure and one group did not go to failure. So if we look down towards the bottom, the non-failure group had significant more improvements in strength and power, especially during the peaking phases of training, so as later phases of training, whereas performing the sets to failure just helped them basically get greater muscular endurance, which is what I was talking about. So they still had some strength and hypertrophy, but they also had muscular endurance gains compared to more strength and power compared to the non-failure groups. And if you want to look at this and go and research the study, I put it down here for all of you. But this is simply to highlight that you don't need to train to failure to get the results that you want, right? Why do you think strong men are so big and have so much muscle, right? They typically, most of their training is in the 1 to 5, maybe 6 rep range, and they pack on a lot of muscle compared to some of the bodybuilders. Yes, they're freaking jacked, but a lot of them are also using performance enhancing drugs, which completely changes the dynamic and principles of overall training for them, because they can handle a greater load. But if you're a natural athlete, we want to follow the tried and true principles that work for natural athletes compared to people who can recover like that from crazy workouts and then go right back into it. Now, I do want to note, right? So you're probably like, well, okay, maybe I want to look more like a bodybuilder, right? Well, that comes down to diet as well. So we need to make sure we understand that as well. Like your diet is going to greatly influence how you look and how shredded and how your muscles actually look as well. But I do want to note, when your total volume when total volume of the workouts is equated, there is no significant difference between building muscle for a more hypertrophy bodybuilder type training compared to a more strength-based training. So what that means is that, say one group, right, I'll just stick with the bench press. Say one group does 4 sets of 10 on bench. It's more of the high volume bodybuilder type, which is 40 reps total. Whereas another group, say, does, trying to do some math in my head, does, say, 10 sets of 4, right? So one group is very strength focused, one group is more hypertrophy focused. They both see equal amounts of hypertrophy. So again, there's the study linked below, but I'm just going to highlight a few things from it. So when training so when training with higher loads, it elicits greater gains in your 1 rep muscle strength compared to lower loads. So again, if you want strength and hypertrophy, we're going to want to pick the lower sets and then equate for the volume. Even when the load volume is equal between conditions, muscle hypertrophy is similar irrespective of the magnitude of the load, even when the volume load is equal between conditions. And what that simply means is that they saw equal amounts of muscle growth compared between the two groups. Okay, again, the link or the study is down below if you want to check that out. So let's talk about some methods for building muscle and staying explosive. So there are really 2 types of trainings that I typically like and that we use inside of the peak performance program during our second phase, which is our CCC method, which is a contrast conjugate clustered method. If you want to know more about that, I have a masterclass that you can go into, breaks it all down for you. But contrast training is simply pairing your main strength movements with a plyometric or power-based movement. Okay, so what we're trying to do here with a contrast training set, and the loads have to be heavy. You can't do it with like a 8 to 10 rep load because you're just inducing too much muscular fatigue and you're taking away from the power that you could potentially get from there. You're not priming the system, and our goal is to prime the system to be powerful, explosive. Okay, so I would think like 5-6 reps tops or lower. Okay, so in this example, you take like a back squat. Say you're doing, I don't know, 6 sets of 4. Okay, so you're getting a good amount of volume at a heavy weight. You're getting both strength and the hypertrophy gains, obviously with some accessory lifts later in the workout. But you're primarily focusing on that part. So what this does is that heavy weight will force you to recruit a lot of those muscle fibers and prime your central nervous system to have to then it'll be primed to then go into the next exercise, which is the plyometric and power-based movement. So we're telling our central nervous system and our nervous system and our body to be super fast, super explosive, produce a shit ton of force, and then we go into a power movement where we're trying to elevate that power movement. So it'd be like a back squat into a box jump. Okay, and the box jump is like 3-4 reps tops. Okay, and then there's a reverse contrast training, which is essentially just flipping this on its head. And I typically like this one if you're focusing a little bit more on trying to get like push some heavier weight, get a little stronger, and have some better quality sets in terms of the strength. So what this does is the power and explosive movement first teaches our body like, hey, we need to be fast. We need to produce a lot of force quickly, right? Which is called your rate of force development. Okay, so we need to get a lot of force quickly, and then that tells our central nervous system like we need to express max power. Okay, so we prime the body, and then we go into our main strength movement, and then you would lift the back squat. So you do the box jumps and then into the back squat. And typically with your central nervous system primed, you'd be able to push, 5-10 pounds heavier than you normally would, equating that you're resting enough after and in between those sets. So I kind of just went through this, but here's an example. So contrast training, we have the heavy compound movement plus a plyometric. So again, heavy back squats to box jumps, 3 to 4 sets, 3 to 5 reps. You can, as the weeks go on, you can progress that through your training model. So then, you may go up to 5 sets of 3, 6 sets of 3 to 2, whatever it is for you. And then I typically match that with the box jumps. You're going to rest anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds after the back squat. If you're getting super heavy, you may be able to extend that out to about 9 or 60 seconds because your body's just not like, oh, we did this and now I forget that I need to be strong. There is a little bit more time that you can have and still have that primed nervous system. Then you do your box jumps, and then you rest 3 to 5 minutes so you can fully recover, get all your ATP back, so you can have another quality set with that. So what this does, again, it ramps up our nervous system to recruit maximal force. It increases that rate of force development, so how quickly we apply force. Also helps with our peak power output with the plyometric, and then elastic strength qualities through the plyometric, all while providing the mechanical tension that we need to induce muscle growth and some strength. Now we have a reverse contrast training. So again, plyometric, heavy compound movement, box jumps to squats, 3 to 4 sets, 3 to 5 reps. Again, you can progress it as needed with your programming, and then 15 to 30 seconds rest after the box jumps, and then 3 to 5 minutes rest after the squat. So this primes our nervous system to express max power and muscle recruitment before going into our strength-based movements to allow us to push more weight, crank up the intensity in our lifts. And this is the method I prefer to use if the goal is to increase your muscle and strength while maintaining your power and athleticism. So here's a full workout example of a reverse contrast training. So your main lift, box jumps, and then back squats, as talked about. Then we do a kettlebell swing. Kettlebell swings are somewhat like a plyometric for our hinge pattern or a posterior chain, so our glutes and our hamstrings. Or you can do like single leg bounds or pulls or something of that nature. But typically I stick with kettlebell swings, a little easier, and they still give us that same response as a plyometric would. But again, these are moderate to heavyweight. There's not a lot of them. We're priming the central nervous system, trying to be super fast, super explosive, snap the freaking hips through, and then we go into like a heavy RDL. After we've done that, right, then we can get into some of our accessory lifts where we can put a little bit of volume on to help support the metabolic stress response. So then we would go into, say, a Bulgarian split squat, 3 sets of 8 each side. We do some hamstring curls, some lying hamstring curls or seated hamstring curls on a machine, 3 sets of 12. And then we could get in and finish with, say, some forward to reverse lunges, 3 sets of 8 each side. If you did this workout, your legs should be absolutely smoked, and you're not going to need much after that, and you're going to want at least 48 hours to 72 hours to recover after that. So here's the overall program design. If I was to program this for you, say, and then you can use this model if you want. This program design is a play on undulating periodization. Again, if you want to learn more about what that is, that's all inside the masterclass, the Elite Athlete Training Masterclass. So, but undulating, basically what it means is that we focus on different goals throughout either the week or the day. And in this case, we're going to flip-flop back and forth between hypertrophy and strength. So we'll have 2 strength focused days, 2 hypertrophy focused days. We'll be doing upper lower splits with this, so full upper body, full lower body. We'll be using the reverse contrast training method, and then we'll be increasing the sets in intensity over week to week and decreasing the reps for our main strength movements, our main lifts. The accessories will gradually increase in reps over time. For the hypertrophy days, we're going to use some reverse linear periodization. So what that means is that we'll increase the reps in the sets and we'll decrease the intensity a little bit. This has been found to really help support muscle growth because it gives us that metabolic stress while still providing some mechanical tension. I mean, it really does still provide mechanical tension because my goal would be that you can progressively, kind of add a little bit weight as you get strong, but the overall intensity of the workouts start to get a little bit less in terms of central nervous fatigue there. Again, we'll do some upper lower splits with that. Now, how do we match our workout stimulus to stay athletic and explosive? Okay, so with this, I'm sure a lot of you are still doing extra conditioning, you're just trying to get faster, jump higher, all of that, right? So in the gym is great. Don't get me wrong, there's a huge foundation, but you should still be doing some things on the back end to maintain speed during this period. So with your lower body days, we want to pair those with more power and acceleration speed training done prior to resistance training if you can, okay, or maybe the day before. So during this phase, I typically stay away from top speed training just because we are going to do a lot of direct hamstring training. And when you are doing top speed training, especially if you don't have good run mechanics, you'll put yourself at an increased risk for some hamstring tears, and I do not want that. So typically, we will do more like tempo runs and just maintain top speed during this time. Because when you do top speed running, you have like 8 times the amount of force on your body in your hamstrings than you do. So there's really nothing that can match the velocity and force that's required for top speed sprinting that you can do in the gym. Just as a little side note. So think power acceleration. So 10-yard get offs. You could do agility type training in here, resisted sled sprints, hill sprints, all of that type of training, because it's very concentric focus. So there's not a lot of eccentric work going on. So you shouldn't really get too sore from doing that type of training. And what this will serve as is a very good warm up before you go into your legs. And it really it shouldn't diminish your leg day as long as you're keeping the volume, low to moderate, and you're just getting the stimulus getting out. And it should actually enhance your lower body days when you go into it. And then our upper body days, typically these are paired with more recovery or conditioning based training after our resistance training, because the upper body days typically aren't as intense as lower body days. Yes, you're still trying super hard, but from a body's recovery standpoint, it's just typically not as demanding on those upper body days with that. So hopefully you can read this. If not, I will give you the link to be able to download all this. But this is a strength and hypertrophy training framework that goes through every single aspect. It gives you what type of exercises to put in your strength block versus accessory, versus what you can do, to help strengthen some of the athletic performance around your ankle strength, rotational and low back power, or not low back power, but stability. And we go through every day. So day 1, intensity super high. Okay. Again, the sprints tempos, like I said, it's hill sprints. Our focus is strength. We're using reverse contrast, 3 to 5 sets, 3 to 6 reps. Strength block, bilateral, vertical, plyo. So bilateral just means 2, vertical means up. It's a plyometric, so it's a jump. And then we pair that with a bilateral vertical strength, so like a back squat. Okay. Then we do the same thing, bilateral triple extension, plyo. So you can do like a broad jump or a single leg pull more like a broad jump, I would say, or a kettlebell swing, like in the example, again, with like an RDL posterior chain. We get into the accessories. This was more of a hip dominant type movement. So we're going to get a knee dominant hamstring to get both biomechanics and targeting of the hamstring. Then we'll get a unilateral squat variation, throw some calves in there. And then you can get some more dynamic core and stability. That's where you throw those exercises in. Day 2, moderate intensity. So this is where it's like the tempo runs, the conditioning, maintaining top speed. Again, strength focus, same thing over here, bilateral push plyo, bilateral push strength, bilateral pull strength. So this one's not paired with a plyo because there's not too many plyometric type power drills you can do with your back. And it's just a little advanced once you start getting into that stuff, which you totally can. But again, you need to have a good foundation of strength, power, movement quality for that. Then we target the shoulders, different vertical shoulder, vertical pull. So vertical press, vertical pull. And then you can hit some arms after. Active recovery, again, same thing. Now we're getting into the hypertrophy days. Day 4, lower intensity is going to be high. We can do some hill sprints if you choose. This is optional, obviously, right? This is definitely for like someone who's trying to get after it, has had a good base of training. This is like top tier. I definitely recommend starting here and then adding a few of these in and then slowly progressing. But yeah, this would be for someone who's already training 4 to 5, 6 times a day or a week with it. So strength, 3 to 4 sets, 8 to 12 reps. Again, we're going to use reverse linear periodization. So the reps will increase over time with that, and the volume will increase over time. So we'll do some unilateral horizontal strength. So that means like we're going to have a more focus on like trying to push this way instead of up. And then a bilateral posterior chain strength, unilateral, lateral squat. So we're getting all planes of motion, hip dominant glute, like a hip thrust, and then ankle strength, unilateral. So single leg, like a single leg calf raise, and then some single leg, like isometric or stability work there. Day 5, moderate strength focus again, reverse linear periodization. Use a unilateral pull, unilateral push. So again, pull, push, lateral shoulders, posterior shoulders, rotational core stability, and low back extension. So this is all mapped out for you. Again, if you want this framework, I can send the framework over to you. It has a full training listed in it. Actually, I'll put the link below in this video. It's the Strength and Hypertrophy Training Framework. So you'll pull it up, boom, you'll get it. You'll go through the entire training. I break down everything a little bit more in depth, and then there's the actual exercises selections that you can get. So if you want that, you can click the link below and snag that. So if you're interested in learning more about these different training systems that I've used and worked with hundreds of athletes using systems just like this, you can join the Peak Performance program. I would love to see you in there. You're going to get monthly performance-based training programs. You're going to get one-on-one nutritional consultation and review, so you can get set up, know exactly what you need to eat, when you need to eat it, all that good stuff. Well, actually, this is what I think is the most beneficial part, where a lot of online training programs don't necessarily have, is I'm actually there twice a month with you guys, so bi-weekly, in there coaching, breaking down the next phase of training, answering questions, reviewing technique, everything that you need in order to keep seeing and keep progressing with your workouts, making changes to your workouts, modifications, all that stuff. I'm in there for you. You also get a year's worth of training that's already in there. So based on your specific goals, where you're at in season or your next match or whatever it is, I'll help you select that training program that's going to align with you the most and what you need right now. And I have office hours. Again, I'll do that once a week. So just one-on-one, 1 or 2 people come in. You just want some extra support around nutrition, mindset, your programming, technique, whatever it is. I'm there for you. And then I have a private Facebook group of other badasses like you and me, where we're supporting each other, we're challenging each other, and we're pushing each other to be our best every single day. And then you see there's more in there. There's plenty more in there for you. But if you'd like that, you can click. I'll put a link below. You can learn more about it. But I'd love to see you guys in there when you join. We do an onboarding call, get you all set up, get you squared away. We get rocking and rolling. We get kicking ass. And then it's also the link down here on the bottom right, the www.athleteacademy.us/peak performance. But I truly hope this was a valuable training for you. You start to understand a little bit more. And I appreciate it, you guys hopping on and learning about this stuff. I want to see all of you succeed. So thank you for joining, and I will see you soon, hopefully inside the Peak Performance program. If not, get after it. Ask me questions on DM or on my Instagram, or DM me, whatever it is. I'm here to support, and I will see you guys later.